a counselor's job is really customer service.
Welcome to the LynnCAM TV Show, where we focus on organizations working to make their impact right here in the City of Lynn. Here with me today, we have some advocates from the organization Stop the Violence, Lynn Mass. Rob Smith, Fred Hogan, Antonio Gutierrez. For those of you who are watching at home, these are very familiar faces to the Lynn community. I would even go so far as saying that these guys are pillars to the Lynn community. And we're here to talk about the rise in violence amongst our community and our youths. Recently, we talked with Peter Capano and John Ford about the walk that you guys are going to be having, which was a success last year, a well-renowned success, and I think that you guys are working to grow. We're here today to talk about your organization in full, its cause, its detail, and where you guys see yourself in the future. But first and foremost, I'd like to get to know the advocates themselves. Rob, can you start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and your responsibility with the organization?
Yeah, as you said, my name's Rob Smith. I'm currently a school monitor over at Marshall Middle School, lifelong resident of Lynn. I do whatever, whenever I can for the children of this community. As Freddie has called me numerous times, and last minute, I'll jump up and volunteer because this is where I'm from. This is my home, and I have no plans on leaving anytime soon, and I want what's best for this community, you know, and the children need a chance, and it has to start somewhere, and that's what we are here trying to do.
All right, welcome to the program.
So,
Fred?
My name is Fred Hogan. I'm a lifelong Lynn resident, still live in the house that I was practically born in for 45 years. I was past head girls basketball coach at Lynn English for 10 years, assistant coach at Lynn Tech for another 10 years, and presently I'm the assistant women's basketball coach at Fisher College. But like Rob said, I'm a lifelong Lynn resident, and you know, and just the stuff that's going on in Lynn and stuff like that there, you know, affects us all, and you know, we decided to step up and make a stand here, and you know, as we go on in the show, we'll explain more about the organization. But
Antonio?
Antonio Gutierez. Wow, I said Gutierrez. Gutierrez.
You got your name wrong.
Yeah.
It's a long show.
That's a first. And so I'm from the Lynn Youth Street Outreach Advocate. I'm not originally from Lynn, but I've been here about 14 years. And in the beginning, I was doing outreach with drug and alcohol, and what was happening was that our youth was being subsided. It was working with the parents,
right,
and the kids were falling through the cracks. I was offered to do outreach in Lynn, and 3 years for under a certain grant, and the last coming up in the fifth year of my own. Myself and Teresa De Gregorio, who's the executive director, and just like the rest of these guys, I've been at so many round tables and so many, you know, ideas, but nothing put into motion. And well, I mean, like Freddie said, we're going to be explaining a little bit about what it is that we have going on, and when it has to do with youth or young adults, I'm there.
You guys are, I mean, I see you guys all over the city. And sometimes, like, I'm in one of those moods, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm like, okay, there's Antonio. Well, if I talking to him, we're not going to leave for an hour. Oh, there's Fred. I can't talk to him right now. But I see you guys all over the city. And it's like you're living this lifestyle. And you're really, like, engaging your communities, which is good. I mean, we get a lot of people on the program who are advocates, but there are a lot of people out there who they'll say one thing, and then they don't do any work for it. And here you are, you're talking about, you know, well, there are a lot of ideas on the table, but nothing goes into motion. You know, we deal with that here at LynnCAM. It's like, hey, I've got an idea for a TV show, and it's like, well, where's it written down? Has it been written down? Well, if it's written down, it's worth its weight in gold. If it's just a thought, then it's not going to become anything. And here you guys, you're out there, you're engaging your community, and you're doing it, and you're leading by example. Fred, you were a big pioneer behind this organization. We're going to learn a little bit about the start of it and why it came to fruition. But let's talk a little bit right now about the organization and its mission. Who can take this one?
The mission is to, John, if we, with all the violence going on, if us as a committee or an organization is able to help one child or put one child on a path of right, so to speak, then I feel that we've done a great job. We can't change the city in one day. We can't change all the kids in one day. We want to try to get them in the right frame of mind of thinking, okay, if I do this, what is going to be the consequence?
Right.
Okay. So if we put them on a path and we keep them engaged in positive things, then they're going to start saying, okay, this is the path that I need to be on. This is the path that I want to be on.
Right.
Because the only other path is destruction. I don't want that. I don't want that. And that's what we're hoping to get these children to realize. And we are focusing on middle school kids, and only because it starts at middle school. And it's not that high school kids don't matter, because high school kids matter to me. I coach high school football at Tech. I coach high school basketball at Classical. And I also do powder puff at Classical. So high school matters to me, and I know it matters to Freddie, and I know it matters to Antonio and the rest of the committee, which, by the way, there are a few people on here, if I may say.
Absolutely.
Ebony White, who's with us, Rachel Bradley, who's in the Lynn Public Schools as a school nurse, great individual. We now have Mike Geary, who's an administrator with Lynn Public Schools, and Peter Holy, Officer Peter Holy, who just couldn't be here with us today. But we've gotten some key people in the right places who are just jumped full force in with us, and that's where we're going. I mean, we're in this for the long haul, so.
So now, you guys focus on the middle school kids, getting there early, and just based on what I know about the entertainment industry, it's like those are the money makers. Those are the original consumers. Are those kids who are in middle school, because they're the one buying the CDs, the shirts, the clothes, the perfumes, the colognes. That's what they're out there to consume. They're out there to buy. So it's no wonder why you see, so many pop stars trying to identify with youths. So it's like, you've got one thing that you're up against, which is the media, all right, but then you're also up against, other influences. You had mentioned that you keep these kids on a positive track. What types of things do you try to keep them active with? I'm sure basketball is probably one of them, right? That's definitely one of them. Outside of like sports and athleticism, I mean, how are you engaging these kids?
In my role in the school department, I take children and I will just take them and talk to them all the time about life things. Just, I'll walk up to a child and say, how you doing today? And if they got a down look, I'll just talk to them.
Yeah.
Talk to them. Listen, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? It's a whole lot of it. It's a whole lot of things rolled into one, and every child's different. So it's the individual child, how you have to kind of deal with.
So a lot of this comes down to counseling. I mean, in order to engage these kids, you have to talk with them. You have to understand what they're...
You have to talk with them. You have to talk to them. You can't talk at a child.
Right.
You can't talk at any child, not today, because they're just going to shut up and they're going to be like, all right, I'm done with you.
Yeah,
So I want to engage kids. I want to engage kids in any kind of conversation they want to have, and I will do whatever I can to help them. I'll get them and put them in the right direction. If they don't want to talk to me, and if I think Freddie can talk to them, I'll be like, listen, I know somebody that will talk to you.
Right.
You might feel comfortable talking to them or anybody at all. And that's where I go with it.
A big part of this is really reaching out to these kids and identifying with them through conversation. And nowadays you see so many groups popping up, and it's like, all right, let's keep the kids busy. Let's throw a dodgeball out there and see what happens. And it's like, you guys aren't approaching it that way. You're having conversations with these kids, trying to identify with where they are and how they do it. That's different type of approach, but it seems as though it's definitely imperative. Freddie, you're a huge advocate among the youth in Lynn. What are some of the things that these kids are saying to you? I mean, when they're subjected to violence, I mean, what's the circumstance like?
Well, everything's around them. I grew up in the Westland area. I still live there, off of Shepherd Street, LaGrange Terrace, Marion Gardens area. I'm really close with a lot of kids there. I watch a lot of kids grow up, and there's just so much stuff going around. I mean, a lot of the kids come from low-income families, and there's no money out there, so you know, kids get out of high school or they drop out of high school and they don't have money, so they turn to either selling drugs or nowadays they're robbing people for drugs, or they're robbing people that are selling drugs and things like that there. And you know, you just try to, you know who the kids are too. You know who they are, and either they played sports for us somewhere down the line, or they played in the Lynn Parks and Recreation League, or they played Westland or Eastland Pop Warner. We know these kids, so we have a different way to approaching them than anyone else. We can kind of say to them, come on man, what are you doing?
Right.
You know what I mean? And you know, that's the way this whole thing got started, is because, you know, as kids were doing stuff, and we knew them. We knew the names in the newspaper.
Right.
You know, these were kids that, you know, you watch grow up since they were little. They were, you know, 6 years old, and now they're in the midst of this stuff. They're the ones who are in the newspaper. You know, and you know, it really hurt myself just to say, hey, you know, I know this kid personally. Now look at what he's doing. So, you know, I grabbed Antonio, I grabbed Rob, Pete Capano, and John Ford, and I said, guys, man, you know, this is hitting home now. These are kids I walk down the street and I see them every day. Now their names are in the newspaper. Now they're doing this here. You know, when I grew up, I grew up in the same neighborhood, and I could have went right or left the wrong way. I decided to do the right thing. I got lucky. I married my wife at an early age, and you know, maybe I got saved from having a good family and stuff like that there, but that was my thing. Is just I grabbed these guys together right here, and I said, you know, we can make a difference because we're there. You know, Antonio's on the streets.
Right.
Rob's in the community. Pete Capano, he's an Alley Street kid. He's from Alley Street. John Ford is from Barry Park. These are guys that they're in their communities. Pete Capano lives there. John Ford lives there. He lived there his whole life. These are guys that I grabbed, and you know, these are people that are in the community, and we can reach the kids. And you know, we're not going to save everyone. We're not trying to save everyone, but we know there is kids that I've reached, or Rob reached, or Antonio reached, and then you see them 5-10 years down the line, they say, you know, Coach, you know, thanks a lot for what you did. And you know, forget pay, forget money. That's the best thing in the world right there. You know, and you know, there is a lot of people that say they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And I know these guys that are on the committee, and Ebony White, and Rachel Bradley, Lieutenant Pete Capano, Mike Geary, all these guys here are in different roles. This committee is very diverse, and everyone comes at it a different way, you know,
right.
and that's what we like. And you know, we're just trying to help, and believe me, I love Lynn. You know, people, I can't say it enough, but I love my community. I love where I'm from, and I'm proud of where I'm from, and this is one of the reasons we started this group.
Antonio, you're a big advocate among the youth and their parents. So you know, there's two sides of it. You're dealing with the youth, and then you're also engaging their families too. What are some of the things that what's the feedback you're getting from parents? What's the correlation? Why are these kids? Why is violence more prevalent now?
Well, according to some of the parents that I've spoken to, their thing is that nobody's doing anything about it. And one of the things that attracted me to stop the violence, when Freddie, I remember me and Freddie had a conversation way back before we had even met, and you know, an idea was thrown. Listen, maybe we should try something, and you know, it kind of goes by the wayside because you got other things going on. And when I got the call and we came and you know, we met at Dunkin' Donuts and we sat down and we started talking about different ideas, but it wasn't just a talk. Families want to see some action.
Right.
You know, and it's not knocking other organizations or anything like that. I have sat at so many, and I said it earlier, so many, you know, meetings and this meeting and that meeting, and state officials coming through, and it's like, you know, all talk and just nothing was being done. When you come to the street level and nothing's being done, that's where you see what happens. I'm in juvenile court 5 days a week. Every single morning I check in for overnights, Mondays for the weekend arrests and things like that. And it's like, it's not so much walking the streets anymore. These kids are all ending up in the system.
Right.
At a very young age. Firearms, you know, from scooters to firearms to trespassing to just disorderly conduct. And if it's almost like, yes, there's things to do, but it costs money. Freddie said it, low-income families. You got single parent homes where they're working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. So what do the kids do in the meantime? There's no jobs for a 13-year-old,
right?
You know, and so what do? When we sat down, one of the things was, what can we come up with that's going to be attraction? And it's not so much like, you know, that we talk to these kids. It's listening to what they got to say. When you tell a kid, I want you to do this, what do?
The opposite.
I did it. I lived that life. My mom said, this is it. And I said, okay, see you later. Exactly. So when you sit and you listen, you know, regardless of the trouble that they're getting in, whether it's sports, when you really funnel what they've told you without telling them, oh, well, it sounds like you're into the arts. What kind of arts? Music, drawing, fashion. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because we come, and I'll tell you, everybody that knows me, I'm not born in Lynn. I got a 9-year-old that I'm raising in the city.
Right.
So whatever I do in the next 10 years is going to be detrimental to his upraising.
Right.
Right? Yes, we can't stop the violence, but we can curb it. Everybody wants to do what we do, but not everybody steps up to the plate.
It's a fantastic outlook on it, definitely, without a doubt. We're going to take a quick break. We've got our advocates here with the Stop the Violence organization here in Lynn, Massachusetts. Rob Smith, Fred Hogan, and Antonio Gutierrez. We're going to be right back after this break, so stay tuned.
Generations as the great anniversary festival. Well, I guess it's better late than never. Thanks for watching this knowledge blast. Hopefully, you've learned a little something.
Welcome back to the LynnCAM TV Show. We focus on organizations right here in the City of Lynn. And these guys are working to make their impact in regards to stopping the violence. Here in the City of Lynn, Massachusetts, we've got Rob Smith, Fred Hogan, Antonio Gutierrez. Guys, we've already thanked you for being on the program. We've talked a little bit about who you are, your involvement in the community, what you're doing to curb this violence epidemic, so to say, that's happening here in the community of Lynn. We haven't really got an idea as to why it came about. So, Fred, you were at home one day and you came up with this idea. Let's talk about it. The origin story of Stop the Violence Lynn, Mass.
Well, I've thrown it out there a couple of times talking to different people that, you know, I'd like to do something that would make a difference in Lynn, and, you know, going straight for the violence, because, you know, the violence is a big thing that's happening to these kids in their community and everything like that. So, you know, I already had a strong connection with Pete Capano, Ward 6 Councilor, and John Ford of the school committee. And I also had a good bond with, you know, a couple other people like Antonio Gutierrez and Rob Smith. And, you know, I said to myself, you know, I'm gonna write something up and I'm gonna grab these guys here. And I just drew out a text to them guys and said, you know, I want to come up with an idea for a group. And this is the idea I had, Stop the Violence Lynn. And, you know, I wanted the word Lynn in there because this is our community and this is what we're going after. We can't stop the violence in the world. We're trying to solely concentrate on Lynn. And these guys were 100% behind me. They were like, Coach, that's a great idea. And when can we meet? It was crazy. We had no meeting place. We had no hall. We had no room. We had nowhere to go. We met at Dunkin' Donuts on the Linway. We all showed up with our notebooks. We sat down and we threw ideas out there. And we were there probably about 2 hours the first meeting, just coming up with ideas that we could do and be positive in the Lynn community and do some things to attack the violence. Obviously, I'm a sports guy, so we went after it that way there with sports. But they know, and in all our meetings and all our committee meetings, it's not only sports we want to go after. Lynn has a lot of great things here. We have, the School of Rock, we have Lynn Arts, we have Raw Arts, we have a lot of things. We want to bring these other organizations in the city together, because Lynn has a lot of great organizations, but everybody is off in their own area. So eventually, we'd like everyone to come together, and so when they call Stop the Violence Lynn, or they send us an email, they say, what about, well, you can go to Raw Arts, or you can go to, the School of Rock, or we have the heroin problem over here. We can link everyone together, because guess what? Everyone that has an organization is here for the same reason. We're here to make Lynn a better place, and that's one of the reasons we started Stop the Violence Lynn, and we're real happy that our events just keep getting better and bigger, and more people are becoming aware to the problem, and that's the main reason we started it.
Now, Rob, you were talking before the break about how you guys are engaging these kids and keeping them active, and a big part of it is just listening. Now, a lot of these kids today, that's all they want to do. They just need somebody to talk to. And like Antonio said, it's like right when you tell them, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be, it's like, oh yeah, I'll show you. I'll do it the exact opposite way. Now, we know, because we've been through these experiences, that they're going to fail. All right, that's obvious. So what do we do? Do we let them go and make their mistakes? No, because it can be, a pull of a trigger or a thrust of a knife. These are things that can change kids' lives overnight. So when you're listening to these kids, what are some of the things that you're hearing?
Well, like I said, every kid is different. You have to, and Antonio's 100% right. You have to listen. You have to listen to what they're saying, how they're saying it, and then being an adult, so to speak, you have to kind of let it run through your mind as they're talking. You have to be thinking at the same time, because you want to give them the right advice. And the way I do it is, when they first come to me, my first thing is, all right, I'm going to listen to you, and I'm not going to say a word. You're just going to talk. They talk, and then I try to find a solution. Is it always what they want to hear? No. And if it's not what they want to hear, I can see that. I've been doing my job a long time, and I've learned to read kids, and I'll be like, okay, I'll say to myself, well, that's not what he wanted to hear, so let's back it up again. Why don't we try this first, or why don't we try that? And then now I have them. And they'll actually do it, and they'll come back and say, well, I tried this worked, or this didn't work. So listening is the first thing you need to do. You need to engage them, and then listen, and then come up with a solution. And I'll tell you, like Freddie said, I took a trip right recently, and I was coming through the terminal, and there was a bunch of kids, and I saw a couple that I had when I worked at Tech, and one of them said to me, as one said to Freddie, Rob, all those talks we used to have, look at me now. I'm here, I'm doing well, thank you. And I had my little grandson with me, and I was like, come on, because I got really like, wow, I do make a difference sometimes, and that's what we are setting out to do. And even though that was from the past, this is now, and now I'm focusing on now, and so.
So the organization is somewhat in its infancy stage. I know that you guys have been around for 1 year. You've had your one walk. Second annual walk is coming up this September. You've brought it over to West Lynn. So you're actually trying to tap into all these different neighborhoods, which is great. Now, what's the vision? Where do you see this organization in the next 5 years?
Just like myself with the outreach, this thing is not going to go away. It's taken a life of its own. It's not about Freddie, it's not about Rob, it's not about Antonio or the rest of the committee. It was an idea that Freddie brought us in. There is no head of the table, there is no president of the board or executive board. It's a round table and everybody's the same. Nobody rules on anything. We vote who's taking what, we take it on. So one of the things that Freddie had mentioned early on when we started this thing was bringing parents in and allowing parents to have a voice. Let's hear what you got to say. Let's see what we can do. And it's almost like allowing them to bring this thing even more alive. Some will, be leaving. Some will stay. But the whole concept of this thing is just to keep it going. It's not about us trying to stop the violence. It's about Lynn curbing violence, period. Like you said earlier, I mean, it's a lot of organizations, they're set in a certain way and this is all they can do. That's not who we are. We're not afraid to take on whatever it is, and if we can't, we look for this resource to be able to combat whatever it is specific. And like Freddie said, I mean, we're a pretty diverse group. This is the first one I've actually stuck in. You know,
right.
Over my 8 years, and I'm sure you've seen it because you've run on a show, and it's a matter of, okay, are we serious about this? There was no, well, next meeting, we'll see what we can know. We just launched and we ran with it. The second March has come. I mean, the vibe on this thing, the item had us in the newspaper, and one of the great things was they put it right on the front page, and it's our Facebook page is just non-stop. People are joining.
You guys are over 700 likes now.
Oh yeah, I think we got much more than that. I mean, we've been clicking, approving. Freddie's done the same, and it's just amazing. And along with the march, it's a closed event. The U.S. Attorney Carmen Ortiz, thanks to John and stuff, she's coming out on September 23rd to the Lynn Auditorium. It's going to be for all middle school kids. Dr. Latham's on board on it. The Chief of Police is on board on it. The Mayor's on board. So it's going to be a great event for 6th and 7th graders, where we're going to set the tone for this year's school year.
It sounds like you guys' agenda is going to continue to grow.
Oh, we ain't stopping.
I don't see that either.
We ain't stopping.
Collaboration, advocacy, and just a listening ear. These are what these guys are doing to work to stop the violence here in Lynn, Massachusetts. I want to thank my guests, Rob Smith, Fred Hogan, Antonio Gutierrez. I also want to thank my staff, David Riley Jr. and Pedro Diaz. That's it for the LynnCAM TV show from the studio here at LynnCAM TV. I'm Sean Donahue, wishing you all the best.